Welcome back to the Development Tank, guys. Straight into it. Thanks for tuning in again. Really appreciate it. Claire's back. We've got the daily road plans. They're submitting to council today, I believe. She's going to talk about the things you need to be working on whilst your plans are in council. If you ever wondered what tips you should be giving your drafty or designer or architect and the effort you should be making through that process, stick around because Claire's going to unpack all those little nuggets and all the things that we think about in here. So stick around. That's super exciting, and we'll go through all that with Claire. Now we've got Gav. Gav's back, and we're dialing it back to a site that we bought. We bought the one site that we wanted to get 3 townhouses on. Council were giving us hell with the type of 3 townhouses we could get on it. So we bought the site next door, which then meant that it really opened things up. And the 6 design that we did is working really well. So 3 on the one site, no go. 6 on the 2 sites, perfecto. So we're going to go through the process of how we dealt with council, but more so how we dealt with the vendor and how we actually got that deal done, because it's a lot easier said than done, those sorts of deals. So stick around. We're going to unpack that now. Site Insiders, if you know, you know. Let's go, guys. Site Insiders, if you know, you know. Welcome back, Gav. We've got a curly one that you're going to talk us through today.
Yes, we're north of the river today.
North of the river, so the northern suburbs of Melbourne, which we do a little bit, not as prolific as the southeastern suburbs, but we do a little bit and we do like it out that way.
Yeah, look, great leafy areas, and the cool kids think that's the cool part of town, north of the river.
Yeah, 100%. We're in sunny Macleod, and I am pretty bullish about Macleod. It has got the university close by, train, and it really has got those country vibes. Gum trees aplenty.
That's right.
And not that I live there myself, but I would think raising kids around there, those big reserves, big trees, the train lines, hundreds of metres away, shops, villages. I really like it.
Yeah, great. Well, let's get into it. We'll start up our land checker here. So just quickly, we'll see where we are. We're about 12 kilometres from the city. All right,
sort of interesting, isn't it? Because I see that 1,200 metres come up when we're sort of measuring it out from the properties we like in the southeastern suburbs, usually about that 10 to 13.
Yeah, exactly.
And here we are again, just north of that. So,
right, so nearby, we've got a public secondary school just here, Latrobe Uni, 1,100 metres away. The Macleod Town Centre, 600 metres to the train station and activity centre. And as you know, we've got a couple of projects pretty close by here. And that little town centre is very, very nice.
Yeah, correct. And I think, and I love to just, as you zoom out, you go, bang, uni, that's all owned there by the uni. You've got some industrial down sort of in the left there. Like that pocket that we are in, it is a bit sort of... it's a tightly held pocket. And as we know, and as we're probably about to get into, council think it's a tightly held pocket as well. But you get into these little ones where you can zoom out and you can really see where they stop and start. I feel like they're good places to play. It's about supply and demand. And these leafy little pockets, exactly where you showed us there, Gav. They're not making any more of it. So I do like the way it's situated in Melbourne.
Yep, so this is 18 Grieve Street in Macleod. This came to us from an agent. It was on market, so we did pick it up at auction, actually, I think it was. So, and it was a while ago. We bought it in April 2022, yep. So it's been a bit of a journey. But I guess the initial thing that really struck us is what you can see here behind this site. Now, it's 1,100 square metres. We'll touch on that in a sec, actually. Let's just have a look at the park in the back here. So this is a fenced park. It's a bit of a triangular shape there, which you can see directly behind the property. There's a playground. There's big mature trees. There's no street frontage at all. And there's a couple of pathways into the park. So it's essentially, over your back fence, you've got a private park.
It's a hidden park, Gavin. As they like to say in the real estate game, it's Macleod's biggest backyard, and you don't need to mow the lawns.
Yeah, and these trees here, these gum trees here, are very mature, huge trees. So they're just beautiful.
It's a beautiful aspect, and yeah, like you said, I I think I'm pretty sure only locals would probably know about that park because they're just little walkways that sort of get you there. So, and not to mention, with young kids running around, the confined spaces of it, and the fact that it is fenced in, gives the mums and dads a little bit more time to chase down little Johnny without him running onto a road or something like that.
Yeah, and we went down. We walked down the side street, went into the yard, and there's a couple of these dodgy dudes here having a look around, scoping the place out. It's all right. We just want to buy the land here.
Yeah, no. I think are great. And any sites that we look for, and it's a great lesson for anyone, just a little bit of X factor. Just give me a little bit of X factor. You can reel off sort of potential X factor items all day long, whether it's orientation, vicinity to amenities, shops, villages, parks are a big one. Aspect, what are we looking at? Just what are the little advantages that our townhouses can have over competition in the market? I think that's super important, and that's what we've got here, Gav.
And all those things you've mentioned, exactly right. You're walking distance to the university, to the school, you've got a park in your backyard, and you can walk to the train station.
Yeah, tick, tick, tick. So pumped about this one, and you bought this at auction, Gav. You were successful.
We bought this at auction for 1.4. So I'll open up the details here, going into it. So yeah, just over 1,000 square meters. Great frontage, so 20 meter frontage. We picked it up at auction for 1.46, and literally 10 seconds after the hammer dropped, I heard a voice in my ear. Someone had leaned over and said, "Come and see me when you're done, son." And this retiree gentleman trotted off back to his house at number 16.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. So a neighbour's tapped you on the shoulder.
Absolutely. So I literally, the dust hadn't settled, went in and we signed the contracts, got the deal done, all good. And I dropped past and saw Ian, was his name, retired surveyor, so pretty sharp, knows what's going on. And he said, "Look, great result. Let's have a chat."
Yeah, nice.
And we sort of said, I explained to him that we'd be doing some townhouse development on the site. We'd probably be targeting 4, I'd say, something like that. We weren't, entirely sure. We'd done our due diligence, but we had a couple of balls in the air. We had a couple of options, and second to that, on this lot here, which is number 12, so it's on the other side of his property. If we just get the high res up here, it's completely finished now, but at the time it was pretty much a work site. I think the slabs were down maybe. So, and that's it's like a social development. It's a community centre. I think it's a bit like a Ronald McDonald House, that type of thing.
Yeah, I believe, my memory serves me correctly, more you're like sort of a rehabilitation sort of venue that's outside the hospital.
Yep.
that they then progress through this facility, and then sort of go, move back on with their life post hospital, post the rehabilitation facility. So full of physios potentially, and sort of those practical workers and professionals and that sort of thing. But so that would have featured in your in your due diligence, Gav, when that was
absolutely.
under construction.
Well, when someone taps you on the shoulder and says, "Hey, would you like to buy my site next door as well?" Your eyes do light up a bit. You're thinking central driveway, higher yield, and just a better return. And this was bought by an investment group that had the pockets to purchase the site next door if it was feasible. So for me, it was a good opportunity straight off the bat. He explained his story to me in that he was born into that house. He was brought home to that house, raised his kids in the house. Kids are left. He was out of the house for a while with the kids are in it. Then they left. He's moved back in. So there's a lot of emotion involved in the property and in the house for him. But he was sort of retired, and probably was a bit too much maintenance for him. There was a lot of stuff in the backyard. It was neat, but there was a lot of stuff. So we had a chat about it, and I said to him that we could probably, obviously do a number pretty similar to what we'd paid next door. There was a bit of back and forth, and I took a very laid back approach. I didn't try and push him. I didn't try and trick him. I didn't try and outsmart him. I just spoke to him about, "Look, mate, we're going to have a bit of development happening on the side here. You've got a development over your other fence. if you're looking at moving, it's probably a good time, but I understand it's your home. If you want to stay here, totally fine. We've got a great development site next door. We'll develop that. We'll do okay. We'll do some really nice townhouses that suit the area, that'll complement your street. It's all good. In the end, he decided that it was probably, it was too much for him and he couldn't part with it. So he said no, and I sort of left it really sweet. No problem. We totally understand. We'll keep you updated throughout the course of the process. Yeah. And he was great.
Yeah, nice. So essentially that doubling up of sites didn't happen in that instance. And that's the thing, it doesn't always work, just double the sites doesn't always mean, exponentially more yield or exponentially more profit or anything like that. It doesn't always mean that. It can mean that. Double the sites can just mean double the trouble and double the cost. Sometimes you end up with just double of what you had, which, in my opinion, isn't always what you're looking for. But essentially, the project come in-house here. We got rolling with it. We went into council with sort of either a 4-play or a 3-play. Like you said, we were open to highest and best use. We knew either one would be successful. But when we engage the designer and they start looking at sort of schematics for us, we sort of start to dial it in. I guess it's fair to say that, the feedback we're getting from council was, it was a bit, I guess, sort of negative, I suppose. They did want us to shrink the townhouses and have side setbacks from each townhouse, which was sort of, which was constraining the site and what we wanted to achieve on it. So as we worked hard on that, trying to negotiate with council, trying to do our best, from memory, you were in one of the meetings and you were like, what if I reach back out to Ian? And that's, and I've glided through that process, but essentially it was council, and like we said earlier, probably council just sort of probably just being hard-nosed on their requirements of that part of their council. And we had precedent in the area, we've done more developments in the area, but they were just, and the certain planner we got was just being hard-nosed on the whole thing, and it was just getting really hard. But then I remember where we were in the boardroom, Gavin, you said, what if I reach back out to Ian? I wonder if bolting the sites together, I wonder what that would mean. And do you want to just talk us through how that sort of played out?
Yeah, absolutely. So we weren't in a tight spot. It was still okay. It still would have worked. It just wasn't going to provide the type of accommodation that we like to develop. The designer's feedback to us was that we weren't pushing the envelope and we weren't breaking any of the guidelines. It's just that their interpretation of the guidelines at that time had evolved, maybe, and it was a bit frustrating from the designer and the town planner because really we weren't pushing anything. So in that meeting, I sort of thought, well, what if I reach out to Ian again? He considered it. It wasn't a flat no and hey, look, we exchanged words and stormed off. It was really quite amicable, and I think I built quite a bit of trust with him as well. Like some of the emails that came back to him after we'd been through that process, he was really thankful for the fact that we sort of took the time to listen. So I just I reached out to Ian again and said, hey, look, I gave him as much information as I needed to. We're still moving through our process. It's going okay. Just thought I might touch base again with you and just see, look, have your circumstances changed? And sure enough, he sort of said, look, give me a couple of days. He came back to me and said, you know what, I'm thinking about it. I'm considering this might be a good move for me. Maybe I should downsize, maybe, this is a good opportunity. And I sort of then sent a fairly detailed email just around sort of, we're going to be building here for the next 10 months. You've got that development over the other side, no matter how careful we are and how great our builders are, there's just going to be noise and whatnot. So, maybe it is a good opportunity. We can talk about price, and as it turns out, we probably paid a bit less. We did pay a bit less than what we bought the other site for because it was a slightly softer market.
Yeah, spot on. I think in that time when we bought the first site to then, there was justification that the market had eased a bit. And I think just the facts around, I think from memory, you actually talked him through what council were telling us, and ultimately the value that we saw, that we can definitely increase the yield of our site with both of them, and explain to him that his site by itself, which would obviously exactly the same as the site that we had by itself, isn't what we thought it was, and that was factual. So the ability to be able to say that to him straight, the fact that you had a good relationship with him, meant that he could genuinely get some insight into what his site was worth, because it wasn't worth what we thought it was worth.
Well, he really cares.
Out.
He really cares about the suburb. He's been there all his life. You know, it matters to him. There was an ecological committee group in the area, which I later found out he was a member of. So he took ownership of what was taking place in his suburb, in his surroundings, in his street. So it did have an impact on him to know that we were doing as big a dwellings as we could. That the living areas were good. We're not trying to shove 10 on there and stuff everyone. We're just trying to make money. He knew that we were trying to build good accommodation for families. So he found that, I know, he responded to that well.
Yeah, spot on. I think he was probably, that community group, like you mentioned, whether he was either in it or he was part of it, whatever it was, I think he wanted to definitely make sure he'd done his due diligence, that he wasn't sort of, flicking the keys to somebody that was going to really create an issue there. And, based on the fact that, and like I said earlier on in the intro, guys, the 3 townhouses we're looking to achieve on the one site, we didn't think hit the mark, but based on the due diligence we'd done with our designer and the schematics that we'd received during this back and forth process with this second vendor, meant that the 6 dwellings we're going to get on the 2 sites, based on the driveway sharing and both blocks sharing the load of the central drive, and everything just opened up. The dwellings become really livable. Sort of 4-bed, 2 living, setbacks, all stand alone, backing onto the park. I think, they become really livable, which put his mind at ease, and then obviously put our mind at ease from a resale point of view, and it's sort of come together, Gav.
Yeah, part of our frustration, and it's sort of a little ironic, I don't know if that's the right description, but by the council enforcing their guidelines as stringently as they were, yes, they may have had a little bit more greenery on the side of the lounge room, but the actual accommodation wasn't great. It really wasn't serving a purpose. It's not like we were trying to shove on 10 little 2-bedroom villas that, had stairs and were just horrible. But because of the restrictions on the actual dwellings, the dwellings in the end, well, what they were asking us to achieve, they weren't really that great of properties, not so much on a resale value, but just on a livability. It was a little bit frustrating, I have to say. So having the extra yard, or having the extra space and the shared driveway, and also very importantly, both blocks back onto that park. So your dwellings along the back of the fence there, they've got this incredible view, and the gum tree just outside on the back corner of his place, and the community centre next door. That's a huge tree, and it's beautiful. So all of the outlooks from both of these dwellings here, and I'm sure that we'll get into a design session with Claire, and we designed around that. And great park to have out the back of your whole. It's 2,000 square metres, so ultimately it's a great development site.
Yeah, correct. And I think the area where it is, like you said, that sort of 12, 13 kilometres from the CBD, you're out with the gum trees, all that sort of stuff. It's to provide proper accommodation, standalone homes, amenity, I think is fantastic. And it talks to what we do on the daily, isn't it? We provide homes in the best suburbs we can here in Melbourne. So super exciting one. And I think, some great lessons in there, Gav, of, one, sort of always thinking outside the box and actually just trying to problem solve, because we genuinely solved, I think, a problem for our client. But then, the product we've been able to provide, but then also just that ability to negotiate, see 2 sides of the story. I think glove a deal in with both parties, vendor and buyer. It can't be underestimated that those deals can be hard, can be hard to pull together. So I think, the ability to keep both parties moving in the same direction, have both parties have a win. And I think from memory, Gav, he stayed in the property. Obviously our buyer put down a deposit. He kept looking for his downsize of property. And I think he continued to rent the property longer after by negotiation and agreement, because we hadn't demolished the house yet and he was still looking for his house. So I think he had a nice transition, during that process. Yeah,
it was flexible. And I think one really good lesson to learn here, developers, I don't think have a bad name. I don't think that at all. But for people like Ian, who's retired, and developers coming in next door to build townhouses, red flags all over the place. But the lesson there was you just got to be nice.
Yeah,
you just got to listen. Right. You got to sit down. You got to listen to what they want, where they are, what they're doing, and just show a bit of empathy. And in this particular case, I think that was probably one of the key reasons why he was willing to open up that conversation again and then consider the sale.
Yeah, no, nice work, Gav, and a bit of a different one there today, guys. One that I think talks to thinking outside the box, finding solutions, thinking your way through it, but then also, like Gav mentioned, it's about having that empathy, understanding people's situations, and trying to create a common goal and a win for both parties. So well done to you, Gav. You'll be back next week with sites, no doubt.
Yeah. Hopefully something that wasn't quite as difficult to get over the line.
No, 100%. You live and you learn. Thanks, Gav. Thanks again. Anyone that's going to get value, please share. That's Site Insiders. If you know, you know. Welcome back, guys. Project Snapshot. Claire's back upstairs. Pumped about this one. It's a bit of a tweener episode, I suppose. A few weeks ago, we showed you the floor plans of Daily. Now, like I said in the intro, these will be submitted to council today, but really wanted to take the opportunity to show you guys what we submit with, the details we submit with, and then what we're going to be thinking about over the next 4 weeks whilst it's sitting in council. So getting these tasks running concurrently, super important to save time. But we thought it was a great opportunity to circle back and look at these, and then we can dive in a month or two's time once we're dealing with RFIs and changes then. But thought it was a good opportunity to show you guys what you should be submitting into council. Remember, that circa 80% that you're content with, bowl into council, think about the rest in time. So thanks for coming up, Claire.
Thanks for having me.
So this is a project you're pretty excited about. We were coming up with obviously topics to shoot for the dev tank. And this obviously hit your desk pretty quickly, as these projects usually do for you guys. And you thought it would be a great opportunity to really sort of show everyone where we get to submit for town planning, and then what's that process for the next circa 4 weeks whilst you're waiting for council's feedback.
Yeah, exactly right. This probably came at the perfect time, so it was a good excuse to show it again. But what you just said is it's about getting into council. There's 4 weeks that you can't speed up. When it's in council, you can't make it go faster. You've got no control over the time. So it's really important. There's lots of different elements which we'll go through that you don't need to refine and spend 4 weeks on before you submit and then wait a further 4 weeks. I'm constantly telling sort of first-time developers or different clients that we can look at those later. We don't need to look at this now. We're going to get a response from council with a long list of things, whether we like it or not. That's very standard. So while we're updating those elements, then we can update the other elements that we haven't refined or we haven't looked into.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I think, we've all done it. We've all been there to make changes and, removing things around and playing with floor plans, which is costing you time, costing you money. And then you have to have council to come back and sort of attack that setback or, do this or do that. And all that work's really been for nothing. So you really want to be efficient and economical. You need to get these things to, I keep saying it, arbitrary number, 80%, and get in because you will get that feedback, but then spend that 4 weeks challenging it internally, get the RFI, then come together and make those changes once, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Spend those 4 weeks reviewing all the items you haven't yet reviewed, and then have your list ready for the designer to tackle the RFI and those changes together. Because like you said, I've seen it before. I've seen where we've spent probably 6 weeks longer than we should have spent, tweaking the master bedroom, the built-in robe, the sort of design of the ensuite, all for the council to come back and say, I want a metre off that side setback, and for us to then put the master at the rear because it didn't fit at the front.
Yeah, spot on. It's it's definitely best practice, and that's what you're going to show us. So you're going to show us where we were last episode, quickly and then take us to where we are now and what we're submitting today. And we might even have some sneaky facades at the end of the episode. So stick around. The facades are fire. So they will be with you at the end of the episode.
Yeah, let's do it. So into this floor plan, quick recap. This is where we ended last episode. These are finalised our initial concept. So we had our initial concept. We've reviewed it. We've made the tweaks. We increased size slightly. We made better entrances. All those things. In short, we've pretty much bedded down our external form, roughly where our windows are, our setbacks, our overall size of the dwellings at this point. And from here, we've go ahead with the facades and the town planning. And that's about as much detail as we've given the designer.
Yeah, perfect. So I enjoy seeing these next set of plans that have got that more detail and they give you a bit more meat on the bone to then see it and make changes and challenge it.
So here we go. This is the floor plan for our full town planning set, which we received yesterday and submitting today. So first time we have seen things like the pavers, the area of grass, the finish to the driveway and the porches, where's the water tank, the clothesline, the bin location, the hot water unit, all those sort of things, which are a requirement for council, but we haven't reviewed this yet. So this is the first time, and these are the items that we will now spend the next couple of weeks. Are we happy with this spot? Are we not happy?
Yeah, great. Because I think as soon as you look at these plans, if you know, you got them back before you submitted to council, you could look at these and you could play and you could push and you could pull. And I'm seeing heaps of things that I'd love to, what does that have to go there? Can that go there? Can that go there? But that would just hold up submission, would waste time and would hurt our overall scheduling. So do you want to talk to us about where are the areas that you and the team will be thinking about over the next 4 weeks to make sure you're ready for when that RFI comes back?
Okay, so we've zoomed into Unit 3. Now it's about thinking how you're going to live in that space, even down to when you're standing in this meals area, what are you looking out to and what do you want to look out to? So start to think about how the inside interacts with the outside. For example, these pavers, this is currently your outdoor area, right up next to the utilities and services area. Is that what you want to see when you're entertaining? Probably not, is your first answer. I suppose a positive of this is I love that the utilities is tucked away and hidden. So we're not looking out of the windows and we're not seeing a water tank. We're not seeing the clothesline. So that automatically is probably the best location for these items in this townhouse.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, you know, obviously people have seen the other ones. They've got the pools and that sort of stuff. One of the main features of this one is that secluded private open space, is that big L-shaped sort of paving / grass area. And it has actually got a dedicated utilities area, which isn't always common in these townhouses. So yeah, I think it's definitely a feature and it's something we need to dial in. And exactly what you're saying, Claire, how are we going to live in these? How are we going to flow? What doors are we going to exit to the private open space? What's a window? What's a door? Like you said, how are we living? Where's the orientation? Orientation is north to the top of screen there. So, how are we best going to use these spaces?
Exactly. So the first thought, which the team has already looked over these briefly, everyone gets very excited when a full town planning set comes into the office. But if we take this for consideration, usually from your kitchen, your pantry, your meals, that's where you're walking outside into your outdoor living area as such. So the initial thought from the team was, do we, instead of having a fixed window here, do we have 2 sets of sliders in this corner, which will allow us to completely open both of them and create an indoor-outdoor meals area? So paving in this top corner and stop the paving here, and then allow for a really nice green space as well.
Yeah, love that. That's the thing. I think the living area needs to stay as it is. Whether that's really going to be a door or not from your living, I'm not sure that's the outcome. For me, I can picture nice windows, sheer curtains, a nice aspect out there whilst your curtains are open. And then, like you said, creating a bit of a vibe off your meals, with maybe, a sort of pergola, exposed pergola, something above to really sort of nominate that area and sort of say, hey, this is where you're going to spend time. And yeah, for me, walking out of the kitchen into that sort of patio area and entertaining area, I think instantly you open those doors, some north light, north sun, and you've got a real entertainer here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important that while this can work, there is nothing, I suppose, wrong with this design. You as a developer need to be speaking to the agent, need to be speaking to purchasers out on the street and their feedback that the agent's getting and what people are looking for. So I suppose, yes, we might only be improving this 2%, but in terms of when this is finished, this could potentially be the difference of someone falling in love with it and someone going, it's not exactly how I would live in it.
Yeah, correct. And the thing is, you'll always be right, you'll always be wrong. It's I've said it before, you can't let sort of personal taste so much get involved and get in the way of how you develop. But in saying that, you need to produce something that's going to appeal to the biggest part of the market possible, and to be able to do that is genuinely living in these, but then also getting feedback from agents, from people, getting a biggest cross section as you can from whether it's inside the office, outside the office, and sort of collating all that sort of information and asking people that speak to buyers every day. We work with Matty, who heads up our Little Fish Real Estate. He's talking to buyers all day, every day. So super important that, hey, Matty, how are people going to live in this unit, and get that feedback and essentially listen to it. So coupled with your own thoughts and advice, great, but then support it with some external data and feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's jump over to Unit 1 and look at the rear of this property. So again, first time we've seen location of gates, pool fences, pavers, all your services down the back, your 6 cubic meters of storage for council. So all those elements, the first time we've seen them. Again, the utility space, love that. It's tucked away. I feel like I always say it, but these townhouses, the backyards are small. So to try and keep them free from utilities, it's creating a much nicer feel and a nicer brand when you go to sell, right?
Yep, spot on. Yeah, love the dedicated area for utilities.
So it's coming back to being practical and making sense, but also creating a beautiful product that people fall in love with. So practically speaking, potentially access from the garage outside, it's there and that makes sense and it's possible. But at the same time, because of this, there is a lot of wasted space through pathways.
Yeah, spot on. You've got pathway in the pool, you've got pathway outside the pool coming from the garage. So you've got 2 different pathways there, obviously with your secure and safe pool fencing as well to consider. So I feel like there's a better solution there.
Spoken like a true dad.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and a lot of the, I suppose, resales and the comps that we've looked at, these pools, they're small. They're not a pool in a big 1,000 square meter land. They're almost a nicety to have water and feel like you're beside the beach or you're in a resort, rather than a lap pool that you're going to use every weekend. So keeping that in mind, the first thought is we flip this pool, put it into the back corner or the back pocket of this property, and really have, from this slider door to that pool, a really good use of outdoor space.
Yeah, that looks like a no-brainer. Obviously, you look to forego the direct access from the garage, but you have got sort of laundry and then directly into that pergola area. So I don't think you're foregoing a great deal, but I think all focus needs to be on maximising these small spaces and making them feel bigger than they are, and that makes total sense. So I think, for everyone playing at home, these are the sort of things that you will be thinking about, the changes you'll be thinking about making whilst it's sitting in council. So instead of pulling your designer and getting excited and going, hey, I've figured out how to fix this layout and maximise it. And obviously we all get I'm very keen to already see the pool moved, the fence gone, there's all that area being much more economical than it is. But get into council, get the feedback, and then make all those changes at once. But great example of something that we will be working on during that sort of pre-RFI.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen it, like I said before, too many times. You get bogged down in these. Things like your finish to your porch, great thing to think about now, doesn't need to happen before you go into council. Mostly speaking, as a general rule, get your form right and your site coverage and your, I guess, utilities in terms of amount of bedrooms, garages, things like that. And that's probably enough. There are so many, you could do a complete redesign at RFI if you wanted to. It's not the game because it costs money to redesign, but you could. So there are a lot of time throughout that town planning process to change things. So try not get bogged down on those little things.
Yeah, correct. And I think, like you said, doing a redesign isn't the goal, but you know what? If you're going to do a redesign, do it with your RFI. That's the thing. So spending time redesigning because you think there's a better outcome on here, but do it coupled with a redesign, but do it coupled with an RFI from council. So then suddenly, at least the redesign you're going with is spending more time, more money for better outcome. At least you're doing it with council's thoughts in mind, and you've got access to them. So I think people are getting the message that get in there, get council's feedback, see where the issues lie, and start, and sort of go arm in arm with council to get a set of plans that once you do submit back from that RFI, that council, it's obvious that council go, wow, okay, these guys are looking to play with this here. I think that's super important.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly what you just said. Work with council to the outcome that you want.
Yeah, a bit of a juggling act just to make sure that you're getting what you want, they're getting some of what they want, and everyone gets a win. So I think, Claire, yeah, great examples. Before we go, can you just mention off the top of your head, what other things would you be looking at in these 4 weeks? Just in a general sense, what's the things that you would be looking to dial, looking to get those points done so you can hit the ground running once you get that RFI?
Okay, so another main item, which a lot of people will spend time on before they submit, are your windows. So yes, while we know locations of windows from a floor plan perspective, at this point or before we get this set, we don't actually know the size of it. Are they opaque? Are they frosted in certain areas? The width, the overall dimensions we don't know. That comes in the full town planning set. So print those pages out and go through every elevation during those 4 weeks, because that, again, that will be important to get right at RFI before you go to advertising, but it's not necessary before you submit to council. And that can take time when you start to think about those things.
Yeah, spot on. And especially, yeah, like we say, moving things when they may need to be moved based on your RFI as well. So you got windows. Would you be thinking about skylights?
Correct. The next ones were going to be your skylights, your materialities, so external materials. While you've probably given inspiration to your designer, you've got all your elevations now. So start to look at where the brick is, what type of brick you're using, finishes to driveways, your landscaping. It's the first time we've seen landscaping. So again, submit to council with whatever your designer has done or your landscape architect has done, and then work on changing those things. Water tanks, like I said, so all utilities outside, focus on that. Your door hardware to your front door. Essentially anything that council are going to see from the exterior.
Yeah, okay. Nice. Great. So a great list for everyone to start working on once they've submitted to council. Now, Claire, everyone's hanging around. I know you're still there. What do the facades look like? This is one that you're pretty excited about. So we've got some facades that we're going to go into council with and have a crack. Whether they like them or not, we'll see. But can you take us to the facades?
Yeah, let's do it. So this is Daly Street. So the standalone dwelling by itself. You've got a 1.8 metre high fence here. You've got a lot of glass and then a nice glass door entrance. So I don't even have to talk about this much. This is beautiful.
Speaks for itself. Talk to us. What's that? What's the brick or the tiles on the front there? What are we going for there?
So these are a Krauss brick. So they are more expensive. They're a slimline brick They're showing up a beige colour here. It'll either be a beige or a grey. To be honest, I'm leaning towards the beige, and that's another great point. Your colours don't need to be 100% either. That is close enough for council, whether it be a light grey or a light beige colour.
Yeah, okay, great. So this is the one facing Daly Road. We got some other views there of the 3 dwellings.
Yeah, let's go down to, you'll probably call it the money shot.
I was about to say, the money shot, Bonnie. How good's that look? Dearie me.
I have no doubt we will probably get a bit of pushback from council just because of the size, but I will say the renders that have been done for this, it can only help. So let's just give a quick example. Up here, that is not a true 3D render. I think that doesn't allow council to see that it will actually be beautiful in the landscape and be a really, really lovely development for the area.
Yeah, 100%. I think the renders done by our designer, amazing work from him and his team, but I think that gives it its best chance for a council planner to appreciate what is going to be done on that corner and showcasing it in the habitat with the trees and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're going to give it our best crack, and we will let everyone know how we go at RFI and what the feedback's like. But we've put our best foot forward. So well done. They look the goods.
Yeah, downstairs you've got Gav, Nathan, and Maddie Bracken saying that might be our best yet.
Best yet. Well, that's all we can do is keep bettering our best. I feel like I hear that from project to project, but that's what the game's about. Again, well done. Great work. Great insights to what you want to be spending time on whilst your plans are in council. Facades are epic. This project's mowing along, so can't wait to give everyone feedback on once we get the RFI back, what changes we do make and what we submit back to council. So probably in 4, 5, 6 weeks' time, we'll be looking to come back to everyone and show them what our next submission looks like. So super pumped for that. So thanks for the insights, Claire. Great episode today. We will see you next week for some more gold coming out of projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Please, guys, share that with anyone that's going to get value. Like, share, subscribe. We're going to 100,000 subscribers. Come on, Fisher. Get your mates around it. And happy developing.